You were up. I'm scared.
Happened once.
Sounds good.
Call to order the Common Council meeting for July 6th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams. Here. Councilmember Bamanto.
Here.
Councilmember Heenan.
Here.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Here.
Councilmember at-large Voloshin.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Certification of the prior meetings.
This is to certify that an official copy of the minutes of the Common Council meeting of Tuesday, July 2nd, 2019 was presented to the mayor on Friday, July 12th, 2019. Pursuant to Section 3.03 of the Dunkirk City Charter, all items presented to the mayor are now in full force and effect. In witness whereof I have here to set my hand and seal of the city of Dunkirk, New York, this 16th day of July, 2019.
I need a motion dispensing with the reading of the minutes.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Civiletto with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voloshin.
Aye. Reading of the privilege of the floor regulations.
The privilege of the floor shall be extended to any person appearing for themselves, in which case the individual shall be limited to 3 minutes, and to any person representing a group who shall be limited to 5 minutes. When recognized, please stand and state your name and address. The city clerk shall have the duty of maintaining such time limits, and the councilman at large may determine in his discretion whether individuals are speaking for themselves or representing groups. Councilman at large Voloshin shall maintain good order and may require any speaker to cease speaking if remarks are made in bad taste or are slanderous or non-germane to any action taken or contemplated by council. The time limit specified shall be strictly adhered to, except that a speaker may be allowed to complete a statement or thought started before such time has expired.
Thank you. With that being said, privilege of the floor is now open. Anybody wishing to speak, please step to the podium and state your name and address.
Good evening. Nancy Nichols, 212 Lincoln Avenue, Dunkirk. At a council meeting recently, Councilman Heenan voiced his concern regarding the conditions of restrooms at public locations in Dunkirk. I would like to also add to that list by referring to the common room on the boardwalk where the ATM machine and restrooms are located. The doors in the men's and women's restrooms themselves need attention, as well as the main door going into the area. With the amount of use this particular area gets by tourists and locals, I feel it should be cleaned on a regular basis. Okay, you are now thinking, so clean it. That's just what I did last week. Went home, got my cleaning supplies, and at least cleaned the main door to this area. While I was doing so, a tourist from Alabama asked if I could continue on and do the men's restroom door. Needless to say, I did not. This is a picture of the door. I will leave it. Hats off to Mr. Robinson on his efforts to do a citywide beach cleanup. We do need more volunteers to lend a helping hand to re-beautify Dunkirk in any way we can. And speaking of beaches, if any of you had the chance to drive along Lakefront Boulevard this past 4th of July and saw all the families gathered on the beach area at the foot of Main Street, you would have thought you were someplace other than Dunkirk. It was beautiful, a beautiful sight to see. Rows and rows of beach umbrellas and portable canopies filled the beach. People playing volleyball, throwing a football, making sand sculptures, or just relaxing. However, I will be a Debbie Downer now and say that I really don't know if this area is documented legally as a beach. But if it is, I did not see a lifeguard stand, no lifeguard. I would think that would be an important factor. As many years ago, I lost a cousin at Wright Park while he was saving a child from drowning. Undertows are nothing to play with. We also need more signage down there as to no alcohol on beach, no dogs on beach, and no swimming if lifeguard is not on duty. There are some no dog sign on the beach, by the pipes as we used to call them, but they are farther up where there is no sand. I'm not against dogs, I love them dearly, but I don't want my granddaughter stepping in a pile that was left behind and covered with sand. The city crews in Dunkirk have done a super job getting our beaches ready for everyone. They need a huge thank you. One last concern is, with all this warm weather we've been having, has the bacteria level been checked to ensure that the lake is safe to swim in? I'll leave it.
Thank you, Mrs. Nichols. If anybody wishes to answer her questions, you can do so during the reports of standing committees section. I'll call upon you. Anybody else wishing to take advantage or privilege of the floor? Please step forward and state your name and address. Last opportunity. Anybody else wishing to take advantage or privilege of the floor? Please step forward and state your name and address. Seeing none, privilege of the floor is now closed. Communications from the mayor, including disapproval messages. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, a quick update on the pier project. The contractors are still on target to complete the project in whole by the 10th of August. I'm being told that they are ahead of schedule, but the 10th of August is the completion date. I also want to clarify to the public that there was an article in the paper relative to the termination of the executive director at the Dunkirk Housing Authority, and I just wanted to again clarify for the record that council members nor the mayor have any involvement in personnel matters at the Dunkirk Housing Authority. While the mayor does appoint board members, the board members themselves do the hiring and the firing. The administration here, as far as council and the mayor, do not have any involvement in the day-to-day operations at the Dunkirk Housing Authority. And I might add that I did have meetings and spoke to several board members there, as well as the chair of the board and also the executive director. Well over a month ago, I was aware of some of the issues that were going on. And again, these are personnel matters that are not privy to the public. I also would like to clarify the situation with the article in the paper on the birds. If we could have our DPW director and our code enforcement officer again speak on this issue. Randy?
Certainly, Mayor. I'd like to thank the Observer for bringing that to our attention last week, and then the story today gave much more information than I was provided last week, because there's apparently a video of possible criminality. I notified the Special Agent's Office of the Fish and Wildlife Service, and I got their brochure. It's called Migratory Bird Poisoning. We don't know that happened, but the article was obviously suggestive of that possibility. So I've asked the special agent to take a look at that. Because it's a possible health effect, I notified the county director of environmental health and asked him to organize something to protect our people. When the Observer notified me last week of the problem, I reinforced with the city employees the need not to touch dead animals. We have only a few people who are trained to do that. Our Parks Division has had some training in doing that because there's some natural deaths that appear in the park, and they take care of those appropriately. Dead animals on the road are the expertise of our animal control officer, and also the city hall cleaner has had special training because he works in some areas of the police department that you wouldn't want to send somebody on trained to be in to clean up a mess like that. So with that notification, we kept our people away, and I ask everybody to stay away from dead animals, especially if we have something happening with the birds over at that location. You don't want to have your dog sniffing that, if you're on a leash if your dog's on a leash being walked, or if your pet cat's around there, so that type of thing. So those are the notifications we made to our employees and also to the regulatory agencies. And I know that the police department, our police department, is working hand in hand with the Environmental Enforcement Division of DEC, New York State, to try to get to the bottom of this. So it's an ongoing thing, but meanwhile, don't get anywhere near a dead animal. Thank you.
Glenn?
The mayor and I met with Jeff Jenkins, one of the owners of the plazas at Save-A-Lot. I've been in contact with Mr. Jenkins since April about this issue. He was in town to tour some of our effective and safe seagull deterrent systems that are being used elsewhere in the city.
I also would like our development director to state a statement on our tree inventory.
Thanks, Mayor. We will be beginning the tree inventory and management plan project end of this July. Our first public meeting will be held on Monday, July 29th at 4 p.m. in the Mayor's Conference Room. We invite everyone to come out and learn more about the process and answer any community questions you may have. The actual inventory will begin on August 1st, and our consultants, Davie Resources Groups, will be out on public property surveying all city trees. Our professionals will be wearing their company shirts, neon vests, and hard hats while working. You can feel free to, if you have any specific questions on trees, to ask them a few questions. But this will take approximately 2.5 to 3 weeks to survey all of public property. And we're excited to start this process to get a better understanding of our current conditions, our current trees, to help our DPW department with any trimming and removing of hazardous trees, and to determine new planting areas that will be identified as part of this inventory process. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. Number 6, communications from the public and petitions. Clerk?
Number 1, notice of claim from Robert Rosblock for damages allegedly caused by sewer backup into the basements of 51, 52, and 62 North Martin Street on July 7, 2019 at 4 a.m.
Seeking a motion to the Law Department, to refer it to the Law Department and DPW.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Civiletto with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voisin.
Aye.
Number 2, notice of claim from Nora Harris for damages allegedly caused by heavy rainwater that came into her basement on July 8, 2019 at 3 a.m.
Seeking a motion to refer this to the Law Department and DPW. Councilman Civiletto with the first. Councilman Bamanto with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voisin.
Aye.
Number 3, request from Adam Wolfley on behalf of Dunkirk Varsity Track and Field to use the following facilities: Dunkirk Boardwalk porch area, Dunkirk Boardwalk restrooms, grass area surrounding Dunkirk Boardwalk, and Dunkirk Pier for their annual Dunkirk Lakefront 5K on Saturday, August 3rd, 2019, from 8 a.m. until 12 p.m. Additionally, they are requesting police presence near the Dunkirk Pier for the beginning and end of the race to temporarily block traffic as needed.
Any discussion? Seeking a motion to refer to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions.
First.
Councilman Bamanto with the first.
Second.
Councilman Williams with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voisin.
Aye.
Number 4, request from Rebecca Ruiz on behalf of the Chautauqua Center inviting Mayor Rosas, Common Council members, City Clerk, and the City Hall staff to their 5th annual Family Fun Day in recognition of Health Center Awareness Week on Friday, August 9, 2019, from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. at the Salvation Army.
Are they doing anything, or is this just an invitation?
Just an invitation, sir.
If it's just an invitation, we can receive and file? Is that correct? Okay. This will be received and filed.
Number 5, request from Megan Larrabee on behalf of Dunkirk High School Student Council for the closure of 6th Street from Plover Street to Marauder Drive on Friday, October 18, 2019. beginning at 3 p.m. to be reopened following the homecoming parade to ensure all participants' safety during their food truck event.
Any discussion? Need a motion to refer this to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first. Councilman Bamanto with the second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Wilwushit.
Aye.
Number 6, request from Don Williams on behalf of the First Ward Falcon Club for closure of South Serville Street between Lakeshore Drive East and Chestnut Street on August 30th through 31st and September 1st, 2019, from 5 p.m. till 12 a.m. for their annual Labor Day street dance.
Any discussion? Need a motion to refer this to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions.
I'll make the motion.
Councilman Heenan with the first.
Second.
Councilman Bamanto with the second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Wilwushit.
Aye. We have 4 loudspeaker applications before us this evening. We discussed them individually during the workshop sessions. There were no questions or concerns by any council members, department heads, and/or chiefs. Therefore, we're lumping all 4 of them together for one discussion, one motion, and one vote. Clerk, fire away.
Loudspeaker application from Barb Hauk on behalf of Christ Chapel Wesleyan Church to use portable fender at the Large Brooks Pavilion at Point Gratiot on August 11, 2019, from 10:30 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. Loudspeaker application from Megan Larrabee on behalf of the Dunkirk High School Student Council to have a DJ with loudspeakers at 75 West 6th Street during DHS Homecoming Block Party and Parade on October 18, 2019, from 3:30 p.m. till 7:30 p.m. Loudspeaker application from Lou Pochetti on behalf of the Dunkirk Lakeside Club to have a 2-piece band on August 4, 2019, from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. Loudspeaker application from Don Williams on behalf of the First Ward Falcon Club to use speakers and the band on August 30th through September 1st, 2019, from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m.
Any discussion, council? Seeing none, I need a motion to refer these to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first. Councilman Heenan with the second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Wilwushit.
Aye. Reports of standing committees, boards, and commissions. Councilman Williams, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Chief Ortolano, just want to thank you. We talked briefly about the kids jumping off the wall, the seawall over down at the lake. A lot of the people that had called me to try to get a hold of you to stop that or put an end to them doing that, they already called and they noticed already. So thank you to you and the department. They're very happy. That was a dangerous thing. So I guess to put out to the public too is that seawall is not something safe to be running and jumping off of. We don't want to see anybody get hurt down there, although the kids think they're having a lot of fun. Some of the running and jumping that we've seen down there, I really, like I said, would hate to see somebody slip and fall and get themselves hurt down there. So I believe the department's still going to be on the lookout for things going on down there, and hopefully everybody will be safe down there and nobody gets hurt.
Down there myself
today. We have our next DPW committee meeting. Randy, we're all set for the City Barns next Wednesday at 4 o'clock?
We should be able to.
Okay.
Yep.
That is the plan. If there's anything different, we'll notify everybody, and it will be here at City Hall. But I believe we should be good to have the next DPW committee meeting at the City Barns next Wednesday, the 24th at 4 p.m. And lastly for me is council can once again be on WDOE Viewpoints Friday the 26th at 8:45 a.m. If anybody wants to join me, get there like by about 8:30, 8:35.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Councilman Bamanto.
Randy, the old Lucas Avenue Altec site, who's responsible for mowing that? It's getting up there.
The owner of that site's responsible, so the mayor and I have talked about that, and we're going to, with the building department, address that with the owner. There's some possibilities of working with them. Meanwhile, the mayor's asked me to take it upon Parks Division to get that mowed and see if we can get reimbursed for that while we do any other kind of negotiation. So we realize it's bad. It's not particularly our responsibility, but we want to take over and make it right, and then work on the details later on.
I also rode by the boardwalk today and I see, is the driveway done in the parking lot finished in front of the boardwalk?
We're getting pretty close. Rebecca,
It's getting there. Within the next week, they should be finishing everything up. Yeah.
And when did this project start? When did we start actually putting the parking lot in? I want to know the timeline because I think it's pretty fast since we started and got it done.
They
Started at the beginning of the
built-
week? Just takes a few days.
Yeah, the
I'm not
parking
sure.
lot just takes a couple days, yeah.
I mean, the point is making, since they started building in that parking lot, when people couldn't park in there, I think the timeline was real small.
Yeah.
So
Right.
kudos to them for getting it done in such a quick time.
They're moving as quick as they can.
And also, I'd like to thank the mayor and everybody that was involved in the 4th of July celebration. I was down there Wednesday the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We had bands down there, well attended. A lot of people had a lot of fun. It was a great time. Also, I made it to the Marauder Trotter 5K, which was that weekend. Then this past Saturday, I didn't make it to Officer Hazelton 5K, but I heard that was well attended and well organized. And folks, there's a lot of things going around in the city, and I didn't even make them all. There was a jazz performance Saturday in Millennium Park across from DHS. That's the first time they ever did anything like that. I know a lot of people from Revitalize were there. That was well attended. Had problems just getting enough people in there, running out of space back there. And that's a good problem. And what else we have? That was about it. Oh, the car show. Car show attended that. They had a great turnout. Again, well organized. The park was great. We had that storm just the night before, and I couldn't believe when I got up there they were able to eventually get their cars on there. And kudos to our Parks Department and DPW. And like was mentioned before, the parks are looking great. Beaches are looking great. Considering where we were in the beginning of the spring, I mean, they're in fantastic shape considering where we were. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Bamonto. Councilman Heenan?
Yes, thank you. I did want to thank Randy Woodbury and his department for cleaning up the area around the animal shelter down at Cedar Beach. And I wanted to thank Jeff Robinson and Jody Faulkner for moving forward and organizing the beach cleanup on the 27th. I spoke with Jody this morning, asked her what she needed, and I went over to Home Depot, and I wanted to thank Home Depot and their manager there. He partnered with me dollar for dollar. We are going to provide 20 rakes, 60 pairs of work gloves, the trash liners we need. And I'd like to thank Krista Campano from the catering company. She's providing 5 cases of water and snacks and apples just to have some fruit around when they're working down there. So I think they're going to do a great job. I understand there might also be another beach cleanup in August. She did ask me to talk to Mr. Woodbury. I don't know if she called you today, Randy, she asked if there's a possibility that driftwood could be removed before they start their cleanup. But
Councilman, yeah, the driftwood is a problem that the mayor and I have discussed how we're going to do that. We can't take a chainsaw down and cut it up. It's got sand, which is quartz, which is very abrasive to chainsaws, and it'll destroy a chainsaw very quickly. We'd love to get rid of it. We're trying to make a plan to do that. It's going to take a cooperative effort. These are full-size trees, and the likelihood is that they came during floods in Canadaway Creek and then made it around Point Gratiot, and then they kind of find their way back to the beach at Point Gratiot, and then keep on going and find their way back to the beach at Wright Park. So we've inherited these trees. We realize they're a problem and they're huge. So the mayor and I are working on a plan to get those out of there. We can't cut them in place, but we'll figure out another way to get them out. We totally agree with you.
well, I've been, and I don't know what other municipalities do, and I know we have a lot of them. I was down at Wright Park today. I couldn't tell if you were just pushing them back or you were actually trying to remove them from the beach.
We're just pushing them back at this point.
But I do know some areas like Angola had this up to about 2 weeks ago, they removed theirs. I don't know if they have a place they take them to, if they remove them with a payload or where they go.
First call I make in the morning is ask Angola.
I believe that's the town of Evans.
Yeah, I'll find out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Got it, Sean?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Heenan. Councilman Civiletto, the floor is yours.
Well, as a Dunkirk councilman and alumni of DHS, anytime I can blame Fredonia for depositing their trees onto our parks and our beaches, I will do it. Because obviously those trees came down Canada from Fredonia. No laughs, nothing, all right.
Could have been our Craig.
Could have been our Craig, but we'll go with Fredonia. Chautauqua County owns Millennium Parkway, Progress Drive. They also were the IDA that had where the cold storage facility is. Those, the grass along Roberts Road is incredibly high, and I don't know should be in charge of cutting that, if it's the construction company that's building the cold storage facility, or if the county is still responsible for mowing that lawn. Randy, is there a way that we can find out who's responsible? Because it's really high and it's...
Yeah, I will definitely, just like Councilman Romano pointed out with Lucas Avenue, we'll work out a way to do that. We'll join services with the county and get it done.
Okay. And along with that, I don't know if the building, and maybe the building inspector knows this, the building that Cliff Star owns on that, adjacent to that lot, if if Refresco owns that still, that looks like it's been abandoned and the grass is 4 or 5 feet tall. Has anyone asked you about that, or?
You have to send them a notification, so I'll arrange to have that contact with the contractor.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to reiterate what Councilman Bomano said about Marauder Trotter. I was there as well, and all of the great things that have been happening in the last couple weeks. There's always 4 or 5 different things to do in Dunkirk and the surrounding areas in the last over the weekend, and we're always being pulled in 3 or 4 different directions. So, jam everything into 8 weeks if we can when it's not snowing. So. It's been really nice to see all the participation throughout the city. Our Public Safety Committee meeting is tomorrow at 4 o'clock at the Mayor's Conference Center, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. I have a few things today, some new stuff and some old stuff. I'd also like to congratulate everybody that was involved on an amazing 4th of July week. I'll call it an entire week. The city of Dunkirk, that's probably their shining moment on an annual basis, with the number of people that come into town, the number of places that are utilized, the fact that we're moving things and utilizing Memorial Park more for bands, I don't see as a bad thing. I've actually received quite a few compliments on it, how it's nicer, much more relaxing, much more comfortable than sitting on the blacktop. You got pros and cons to both. You got, cheerleaders for both spots. I get it, I understand it, but I've heard a lot of great things about the move over there. The city looked great. The crews cleaned up immediately after the next morning. I remember making a comment at last year's council meeting how I was out there by 5, 6 a.m. the next morning and everything was clean. You couldn't even tell 4th of July took place a few hours prior. So. Another outstanding job by all the city employees and city administrators to put on one heck of a busy week. For the Finance Committee meeting, it took some wrangling to move it from this Thursday. Mayor, you're actually the only one I didn't ask, is if you had the date free next Thursday, just bump it 1 week, Thursday, the 25th till 4 o'clock. If for some reason you can't make it, just shoot me a text or an email or something, okay? The other things are Mrs. Nichols. I actually brought up the cleanliness of the boardwalk. I was there this afternoon in our workshop session, or was it economic development, one of the two? So the mayor and Randy said that they had previously spoken about this this week and that they do have a plan in place to address those issues. Because as I was there today, a couple of the employees literally held my hand and pulled me around the boardwalk to show me the exact sites that you were talking of. So they promised that will be taken care of. So, okay. Just wanted to let you know. It's not, we see it, so we're hopefully taking care of it. Last week, I asked the mayor and Richard some questions pertaining to the floating docks down at the marina, and I rewatched the meeting before I came in today to see where we left those, for lack of a better term. As far as the floating docks go and possible City of Dunkirk employees fixing those, Mayor, during that meeting, you said you were going to check with NICOM to find out what the situation was because of the ownership and it being private property behind a locked gate and key. I understand the public safety issue, and I understand the docks where people put their boats in and out, but the ones I was concerned about were the actual marina docks. Had you found out anything as far as that goes?
Yes, I have, and I've been informed by NICOM, which again, you guys have the information to make the calls yourselves, that anyone falling or getting hurt at those docks, the first entity that they can sue is the City of Dunkirk.
Okay. That could be said with many things around the City of Dunkirk, but
Certainly.
whose responsibility is it to repair those docks? I guess is the question. 'Cause
Well, that's a
the
question.
lease that we signed with him says exactly the opposite. So do we need to change the lease? And this lease is current, this is 2016.
We can address that issue if you want to address it now. Formally, we can do that. The bottom line here is that my job as Chief Executive Officer is to protect the city, and that's exactly what I do when I send folks over there to address these issues. If you would like to pass a resolution that the city not get involved at all in these things, we can also do that. However, you are putting the city in jeopardy.
Okay. So the lease is incorrect then in saying that he's responsible.
The lease is, it's up for a matter of interpretation. I'll let the city attorney address that issue. But the real issue that we're discussing here is whether or not it is the city's responsibility to protect itself. And when we send folks out there, it's because something broke and it's a matter of public safety. My office receives these calls pretty much daily. And most of the time, we don't send people out there. But when I feel that it is in the city's best interest to send someone out there, I will send them out there.
Okay. The docks themselves that are in question are personal property on private property behind a locked gate and key. So they're not accessible to the public.
Again, if this is obviously we disagree on this. If you want to continue this discussion, we can. If you had called me earlier and we could have had a formal discussion ourselves privately, then perhaps we could have had more documentation to present to you. But again, I disagree with you respectfully, only because the issue on the table is not if it's private property or not. It's that if someone is to get hurt, and it is a matter of public safety, when we become involved, upon being called, my office receives the call that there's an issue there. And if it does not get fixed, then we are going to be liable. That's the bottom line. As far as the lease goes, what I've been told by NICOM is we can try to negotiate that lease, and, you know, good luck with that. So the bottom line is the property, if somebody gets hurt on that property after giving notice, prior notice to the city, we will be held liable.
Was there private notice given for those docks? to the
There
city?
has been prior notice given to the city.
Okay. And Richard, you can come up with that?
Yeah, there's two different issues here, and they're related in the sense that what you're getting stuck on it is the lease language. And I can tell you, this lease language is litigated all the time in commercial leases between what's maintenance and what's a capital improvement or expenditure. When the county and the city of Buffalo and County of Erie had shared park services some years back, that became a sticking point that ultimately killed that shared services agreement, because there was often an argument over what's maintenance and what's a capital improvement. Now, in this case, the docks may be personal property, but they're on city land. And that's what the mayor was getting at, in that ultimately, if somebody slips and falls on one of those docks, the city's getting sued. So the city has a public interest in making sure that those are safe. And that overrides lease language. And that's something we can litigate till we're blue in the face. But the bottom line is, if somebody slips and falls, both the operator and the city as property owner are going to get sued. So if we have a public safety argument, and there was a lot of buzz about that after that crazy winter we had and all the rain, with all that, the water level so high, there was plenty of public notice of the condition of the docks and the condition at the marina. So with a public safety concern, that overrides that interpretation issue of maintenance versus capital expenditure. And I understand, if you look at the lease, again, this is, are we being originalists or are we being interpretation? That's something that we lawyers figure out in court and we argue about all the time. And what I'm telling you is the overriding concern is public safety, because I can tell you that anytime somebody trips over a cord at the marina, the city's getting a notice of claim. Even if it's, that cord is the
Or trips over a tent
operators.
stake.
Right.
Okay.
Andy, can I ask a question?
When I'm done. So, okay. So when we have a hole dug in the middle of Deer Street that a homeowner is technically supposed to fill, and that hole sits there for a month, while we debate who's responsible for filling the hole, obviously that would be considered a public safety issue as well.
That's right.
So instances and things of that nature, I know Mr. Civiletto brought up quite a few of those cut-off stake signs all over the city of Dunkirk, including right on my corner, right by my house, that are protruding from the ground for decades all over, right in the city right away. Those are considered a public safety hazard. So are we to address those that are city-owned, city property, city right-of-ways in a more timely fashion because we have all three encompasses of it? Or because, I mean, we sat here and we debated that hole for a month, and when you would think that would be something, since there's cars driving by it and kids walking by it and everything, I guess how do we figure out which one takes precedence when it comes to?
Ultimately, with that situation, my recommendation was that we go ahead and take care of it.
Correct.
And then find a way to get reimbursement from the homeowner. The bottom line is, what I've been told by NICOM is, once it becomes a matter of public safety, it is the city's responsibility, and we will be liable. That's what I've been told. So I would say that once it becomes a public safety issue and we have been notified of it, we have the responsibility to address it. Could we go after the owner, the lessee? Yeah, we could. So that's a separate issue, probably.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna leave that one for now. I did find something else in the lease that I'll discuss with you on the side, that actually fits into last week's council meeting. Richard, you said you were gonna look up the air conditioning issue as well, since there's a conflict between previous owners having to foot the bill for theirs and the new Mexican restaurant having the city foot the bill for it. At the last meeting, you said you were gonna look into it for me.
I didn't look at the old leases yet, but like I said, standard operating procedure is that the property owner or the landlord provides AC if there's AC to be provided, and provides heating. Again, I haven't looked at the old leases. Frankly, in our files, we don't even have a lot of those old leases at the law department. Why that is, I don't know. So I'll have to dig in either the clerk's office or maybe whoever else had their hands in that during that administration. But I don't understand why those weren't provided before.
Okay.
Because typically that's a landlord responsibility.
But Mr. Chairman, if
And I
may-
just want it to be one way or the other. Whatever
Right.
way it's gonna be, I want it to be one way or the other. Once the AC's in there, you don't gotta worry about it anymore, because the AC's in there, it's gonna be in there for the rest of the life.
Right, so-
So this is only gonna be a matter for maybe a couple more tenants. It's gonna be an issue, but it's gonna be an issue.
I did have occasion to speak to one of the tenants since the last meeting. One of these tenants are ones that were original, and she stated that Mayor Fry had actually offered the air conditioning, and the city was supposed to pay for it, and they were supposed to cover half of it if they wanted it. And that was offered by Mayor Fry back in the day. I can let you know who that merchant was if you want to know. But again, my opinion is that that's a city-owned facility, and air conditioning is not a luxury anymore. That's standard. If we're gonna own it, then we need to take care of it.
And again, I'm not arguing that point. My point is, I just want
Consistency.
consistency.
Right,
with
and that's
whatever
what
we're
we
gonna do
intend,
going
that's what we
forward.
intend to, that's what we intend to do, is have consistency there.
Okay. We can't pick and choose which ones we're gonna put AC in.
Again, nobody's picking or choosing. We're telling you that that's what we want to do. That's gonna be the norm. That's the standard. That's what we want there.
That's all I'm looking for is consistency.
Wonderful, I agree with you.
Okay. 529 Franklin Avenue, at the end of my block. 2 weeks ago, I was driving by to go get my lawnmower filled or repaired, and there was a city crew grinding up 2 tree stumps on private property in front of a residence, and it was far from the edge of the street, so I assume it was not in the city right away, although I don't have the exact measurements. Randy?
Hate to disagree with you, Councilman, but you live on Franklin Avenue. What was the former name of Franklin Avenue?
Railroad Avenue.
Railroad Avenue, and it was designed in 1836 to be the recipient of the New York and Erie Railroad, and it was laid out to be 150 feet wide, the widest street in Dunkirk.
Oh, wow.
And the property
There you go,
stakes are right next to the front of those buildings. There were some 150-foot tall elm trees and city right-of-way, also right in front. I mean, those are obviously the same place because that's where the stumps are. We had a volunteer who wanted the wood, believe it or not, from an elm tree, which is not really a good idea, but they wanted it. They took it down with the right insurance, and they left the stumps for us to get. We were going to get those stumps last year, but our stump grinder blew up. It was going to be $18,000 repair. Instead, we got a fairly new one with the same horsepower for $13,000, much newer machine. We ground those stumps. They were definitely within the city right away. I questioned that as well when the trees were coming down.
Those are far back there.
Franklin Avenue. If you go and stand back there and then look down Franklin Avenue, where Brian Pierre lives and all those people, you'll see that the right-of-way is a very wide right-of-way there. So it's totally unusual, and I could see why people would think that, but we would never willfully do that, and we were within the city right-of-way when we were working there.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected. Thank you. I apologize for the misinterpretation. That's my
I asked
fault.
your 4th Ward councilman, he knew.
You got the history of the whole street. Oh, there's also another issue that has possibly come up about the reimbursement. How should I say? Maybe not reimbursement. Last meeting, Richard, we passed a resolution to waive a month's rent for the people at the boardwalk.
Yep.
And it's possibly not legal to do such for a month's worth of prorated taxes. Is that?
Apparently one of my predecessors brought that up, and that's something I told him I'd have to research. I'm sure there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. It's a balancing of the equities, so that's an argument I'd be willing to make in court. So it's just a matter of looking at the property tax bill and figuring out how to do it.
Or just not calling it property taxes?
Or that.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Finance, 4th of July. Okay, that is all I have.
Councilman?
Yes, Mr. Woodbury?
You said, I'd like to thank, if I can at this time, thank Mrs. Nichols for her vision and for her initiative with the boardwalk. I think that the future of the United States is volunteerism, and you did you're a nice example of that, as is Revitalize Dunkirk. We have the president here. All of the signs coming into Dunkirk have been revitalized, and you've helped revitalize the boardwalk. It's something definitely on our radar. The mayor and I are going to shift personnel around so we can do that. Last year was the first time that we've done top-to-bottom painting of that room since the boardwalk was built. The fact that it needs it another year later shows how intensively used that is, and also it's probably getting some dust from the construction area over there. So we intend that once the construction dies down, to get that completely rebuilt and get it to the standards that I agree it should be done, and maintain it to that level. I'd like to thank all of the DPW employees. I think that was telegraphed by all of you for 4th of July, but especially I'd like to call out 3 people in our Parks Division that you credited for the beaches. We got a supervisor, Russ Tenamore, who's very knowledgeable on parks and wildlife and how to get rid of poison ivy and things like that, which is important. And the two municipal workers, Jason Sislevich and Billy Kuras, those are our full-time people in parks. And we have David Campola has added a lot of seasonals. We're increasing that staff too. So the Parks Division, in addition to everybody else in Public Works, I'm very proud of them. And I'd like to thank you all for kind of giving them a shout out today, and I'd like to echo that. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Randy. That will be it for reports of standing committees, boards, and commissions. We move on to number 8, unfinished business.
67, Resolution Intro Number 4 to Local Law Number 4-2019, City of Dunkirk, a local law to amend Appendix 1 of City Charter Rules of Order of the Common Council, Section 6-3.
Before we can do anything, we need a motion to take this off the table.
So moved.
Councilman Williams with the first. Do I have a second? Second. Councilman Heenan with the second. Clerk, call the roll just to take it off the table.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
No.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
No.
Councilmember at-large Washington?
Aye. Resolution is now off the table and open for discussion. Councilman Civiletto?
Just want to say it's redundant and unnecessary, and I think it's those are really the only 2 words I need for it. That's it.
Okay. Councilman Bamanto?
Like Councilman Civiletto, it's a layer that we don't need. It's redundant. I reached out to some past councilmen from way back. They think it's ridiculous. I reached out to some councilmen that weren't here that long ago, and they think the same way. Things are happening in the city that, like I said at the last meeting, that some people ain't used to. Things are moving fast. And we don't meet every day. We don't meet every week. We meet the 1st and 3rd of every month. So things just happen to come in for the good of the city. And that's why I don't think this needs to be brought to the table. Also, if we have a problem with it as a council, we'll discuss it like they've done in the past, and we've done in the past with this council and previous councils. And we could table it or vote no to it. We'll take care of it. I just think we don't need it.
Okay. Further discussion, Councilman Williams?
Yeah, I just want to say, as a sponsor of this resolution, I feel there is a need for this resolution. When we get a walk-in coming in, especially those that deal with any money or anything, I believe that it should be on the pre-filed agenda that goes to the public through the newspaper, so that whenever anybody reads the paper and reads the agenda, they know, hey, this is what's happening, I like it, I don't like it, and they want to come in and then they want to, maybe speak their mind at the public portion of the meeting to say it. I also believe that the burden of 3 votes shouldn't be on us tabling it. The burden of 3 votes for a walk-in should actually be on whether it's accepted into that meeting, and that's what this resolution does. So I understand what the other council members were saying. It's not so much the layer to do the same thing, it's a layer to make sure that the burden of the votes that are needed actually are on the side of bringing it into this, instead of trying to put it onto the table. Again, I believe it's all part of transparency, so that we're not having any resolutions coming in that are dealing with money or dealing with bids or dealing with anything like that, that it's on an agenda, it's publicized in the paper, so that if people have any questions about it, that they're able to come to the council meeting and speak their mind at the public portion.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Any further discussion? I just like to say that the reason I brought this up and offered to work on it with Richard is because the 5 of us were having those discussions about walk-in resolutions prior to this supposed solution, about the untimeliness of them, the uncomfortableness of them. I didn't realize this was going to be such a divided topic, I guess, to try to solve something like this. I disagree in some respects that it's an extra layer or redundant or no different, because when you have an option to vote to accept something, you have an option to discuss it. If a walk-in resolution comes in, as Mr. Civiletto experienced this year to his dismay, if somebody wanted to turn it political, which I've also heard this is political, if somebody wanted to turn that walk-in resolution political, they could easily just be the first person to raise their hand and table it immediately, which would shut down any discussion, and no discussion could be had on that at all. That ends the conversation. With this, that cannot happen. With this, all 5 of us are able to discuss the walk-in resolution freely without fear of losing that capability. On whether or not, and again, it's whether or not we just want to accept it into the meeting. We're not voting it down, or we're not voting it yes or no. It's a vote on whether or not we want to accept it into that meeting. So we can have a lengthy conversation about it right then and there because of this introductory law change. Otherwise, if somebody did want to turn it political, they could just raise their hand and say, I table it, I motion for a table, and that's the end of the discussion, without even being able to discuss it, which is exactly what happened to Mr. Civiletto earlier this year, and to myself. I was in the same boat as him. I wanted to discuss it some more too, and we weren't able to. This eliminates that possibility. It gives us all the opportunity to speak about whatever that walk-in resolution is. And as far as it being political, I'm the least political guy up here, even though I'm an elected official. I mean, I've voted yes and no with every single person on this board, and the mayor, whether you're Democrat, Republican. I've voted for Republicans on the line. I don't care, and I'm on the line. And as far as that being political, you had, when I introduced it, you had the head of the Democratic committee sitting in the background, who I referenced during that meeting, shaking his head. Yes, it's always been a problem. And the Democratic candidate for councilman at large to take my place, giving me the thumbs up when I introduced it. And that's your guys' side. So as far as it being political, it seemed like everybody else in that camp was for it when I introduced it 2 weeks ago. So I don't know. I thought this was a simple solution. I'm not going to be here. So you guys can deal with the walk-ins going forward. But again, it's just a simple yes or no, 5 quick votes. Do you want to deal with this today, or you want to deal with it on the next agenda? That's all it is. And you can discuss that with this possibility, where if you table it, you can't discuss anything. And as you said, Marty, we're only here twice a month. So as you guys probably found out in the last 4 years, I like to let people talk. We're only here for an hour in over 2 months. So I like to hear the ideas. I like to hear the different opinions. I mean, that's how I form my stuff too. So I like to hear the stuff. I like to have the people talk about things. So that's the avenue that I'm coming from. With that being said, is there any further discussion? Councilmember Monto?
Mayor had something?
Mayor?
No, I just wanted to, for the record, again, voice my opinion. I am not for this resolution. I believe it'll hurt city government moving forward. All local governments have a policy of walk-ins, and there's a reason for that. What this may cause is more special meetings, which would require more time, more meetings on behalf of future council members. So I don't think this is in the best interest of the city government moving forward. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mayor. And just so everybody's aware, the rules and regulations of regular walk-ins, if they are immediate business that needs to be taken care of for a walk-in purpose, it's still written in there that they need to be acted upon. This isn't what I want to say, an all-encompassing issue. We realize what the issues are that have to move forward that day, and we realize some issues may not need to move forward that day, and that they could wait for the regular agenda next week. For example, Rebecca, have we received any applications for small business startups at all from the walk-in resolution that we had to have done that day 4 weeks ago? Okay. Do we even have a process in place to even accept those applications yet?
It was due to HUD that day, though. That's why we needed it.
Okay. So it's things of that nature that we question on why do we need this today? Does it have to be today? I'd like to learn more about it.
Right, but the process, again, when we deal with the governing agency, who's actually the funder, they have deadlines they impose on us that we can't control. So it's these type of issues that come up from time to time. As council members, you're not here to know the day-to-day operations, so we explain to you during the walk-in process why it's being walked in. These are things that happen from time to time, and again, we're not the only local government experiencing this issue. All local governments have a policy for walk-ins, and there's a reason for that. What this may cause again in future is more special meetings being called. So like I said, I don't intend to veto this in any way. I respect the decision of this council, and we'll deal with your decision, but I just wanted for the record to state that I am not for it.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
No.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
No.
Councilmember at-large Voroshin?
Aye. Motion passes. Number 9, pre-file resolutions. Number 68.
Resolution authorizing grant application, Department of State Brownfield Opportunity Program.
Rebecca, would you like to update us a little bit on that?
Sure. 68, 69, 70, and 71 are all New York State consolidated funding application grants. New York State puts out the grants every year, and they're due at the end of July. This specific one, Resolution 68, is to hire a consultant for a marketing strategy to redevelop our brownfield and vacant sites in the city of Dunkirk. Last year at this time, we finalized our brownfield opportunity area study, and we were officially designated a brownfield opportunity area community. We have a boundary that has roughly 15 sites within that boundary that are brownfield or vacant that need to be cleaned up and redeveloped. And what this application would do is allow us to hire a consultant to help with marketing those properties. We're really busy in our department, and I would love to be on the phone every day with a bunch of developers to help market them, but we need a plan and we need a good marketing package that consultants can help us out with. So this would help us with grant funding to hire those consultants.
Okay, very good. So that was number 68. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voroshin?
Aye. Number 69.
Number 69, resolution authorizing grant application, ESD strategic planning and feasibility studies.
Any discussion? You just want to, anything else, or was that all encompassing?
Jamestown Community College, their North Campus is interested in working with the city in partnership to look at the feasibility of locating its North Campus to downtown Dunkirk. There's some few sites along Central Avenue that they're interested in, and this would allow us to get the funding to do that feasibility study.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voroshin?
Aye.
Number 70, resolution authorizing grant application, NYSHCR Main Street Program.
Rebecca?
This one is to get grant funding for facade and interior improvements for buildings along the 200 to 400 block of Central Avenue. We've held a property owner forum to gain interest for those that own properties along Central, and we've had some great turnout, so hopefully we get grant funding to help with facade improvements along Central.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voroshin?
Aye.
Number 71, resolution authorizing grant application, NYSO PRHP Environmental Protection Fund Grant Program.
Any discussion? Rebecca?
This last one is for a Phase 2 for Wright Park improvements. Phase 1, we didn't have enough funding to do a nice playground there and some other little improvements for the bike paths, some lighting, upgrades to some of the pavilions there. So this grant would look at putting those new features at Wright Park.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams? Aye. Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Washington?
Aye. We have a walk-in today, new business, resolution number 72. Richard, does this start immediately?
I would
Local
start
law?
the following meeting.
Following meeting? Okay.
But again, just to reiterate, all this did was formalize a process that you guys already do, and essentially it's just factor analysis on essentially what some of you guys laid out is what are the factors involved as to why this is a walk-in. On this one, the council had a memo from the chief a couple of weeks ago about this. Unfortunately, that was never shared with us, so we didn't know to draft the resolution until today. But essentially, this is something that we've traditionally done for National Night Out, which is usually the first Tuesday of August. So I know the past few years I've been here, so this is just doing that, moving the meeting over to Monday, so we can all participate in National Night Out.
Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams? Aye. Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Washington?
Aye. Motion.
Just, can I say some new business from the previous unfinished business or reports of standing committees?
Excuse me?
I just have something I'd like to say going back to the standing committees, some of your questions.
Okay, Councilman Heenan?
This is just in regards to the air conditioning units that were put in there. I meant to get to Richard with this. What happened years ago, and I'm not sure if it was they ever had an addendum or it was kind of like a handshake type of deal, but back then when Mr. Fry was the mayor, he offered everybody at that time that they would pay half the price. Now, it's water under the bridge. The gentleman who owns the place there, I mean, a great guy. I'm certainly not looking to jam anybody up. But the city paid half, we paid half, the condition that when that tenant left, he would leave the air conditioner behind. That's why when you walk behind those buildings, you'll find that every air conditioner, most of them are a different brand because they hire their own people there. I don't know if it was ever official, it was just a kind of a conversation type of thing. As you know, I don't want to be argumentative or confrontational here, but it's one of those things, moving on to what Andy had spoke about with the slips, and I just got to say it, and I don't want to beat anybody up, but the problem I have is that you have a tenant there who is responsible for that property. He takes care of his property up in Holiday Harbor. We should have cited him or called him and said, you're responsible for this. We're not responsible for this. You know, if somebody slips on the boardwalk in front of wherever they may, they're going to sue the business owner, they're going to sue the city, they're going to sue everybody that they can find. They'll find the guy who built the building and they'll sue him. That's just the chain that it works. That's everywhere. Do we want to help people? Sure, we want to help people. But this guy's more than capable of doing his own work. And I know there's something in that lease that says that we can cite people. They need to take care of that property. And I know when they were trying to get somebody out of here years ago, they were using that because the person wasn't taking care of the grounds. And there were grounds for us to go after him. And it was like he was reneging on his responsibility of the lease. So my problem is not the public safety. My thing is that he's got his own crew to do it. He does it up at Holiday Harbor. I mean, the place is a great looking place. Why isn't this a great looking place? Why are we paying our people to fix his slips when we have a mile of beach we should be taking care of? I mean, a lot of other stuff we need to be taking care of. We have a responsibility to everybody. It would be like having a greasy floor in one of the businesses down there, leaving it there for a month, and you say, hey, they're not mopping it. We better go in there and mop it. Because if somebody slips and falls, they're going to sue us. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I just had to say that. I think our people could have been better used. I think the person there is, he's probably a nice gentleman, but I think he's more than capable of being able to handle that on his own, but he didn't. The city did. I mean, and that's the end. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
If I could respond to that. Obviously, the councilman and I disagree on this issue. Again, the decisions being made by me as Chief Executive Officer are based on what is best for the city. I do hold Mr. Pringle responsible for all of the duties and responsibilities that he is supposed to be taken care of. He's also investing money into these docks and the marina. And as you are all aware, he's also investing money in the Pier 30 project, which has already started construction there. So we have a different marina owner than we did years ago, but since you referred to that, years ago, that marina was in a lot worse shape. And part of the reason is that the city was not a willing participant to make sure that the city was taking care of itself. So that's my opinion. I just thought it should be mentioned for the record.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Motion to adjourn?
Can I say one more thing?
No, we're done. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Councilman Monto with the first, Councilman Heenan with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember Elijah Wash?
Aye.